Hi friends, welcome to the Share, Invite, Proclaim channel. Today I would like to talk about God's amazing battle plans. Kind of unusual. I'd like to talk about the miracle that God performed and the impact that it had upon the Israelites and upon the pagans. And also like to talk a little bit about the walls that need to come down in our lives and perhaps the walls that need to be built up in our lives. Well, this is a story about the walls of Jericho, and it's taken from the last few verses of chapter 5 and all of chapter 6 of Joshua. The people involved in this story are the captain of the host of the Lord, and that deals with Jesus. It's an example of Jesus in the Old Testament. It's about Joshua, the priests, the main Israelite people, the men of war, and of course the people of Jericho. Now the place, Jericho, is located easy enough. You have the Sea of Galilee here, and you have the Jordan River, and then you have the Dead Sea, and then Jericho is right about here, right about there. And Jerusalem's about here, Jordan's here, Syria's here, Lebanon's here, and the Mediterranean Sea over there. So that's where Jericho is in, let me put a big X, in Israel. And that's where Joshua and the Israelites crossed the Jordan River first. And why was this important? Well, the area that I just showed you is a place where God had promised to the Israelites, had promised to Abraham that is the place, that is their promised land to them. The land was promised to them. And so, after many years of captivity in Egypt, they escape. They come then to this area where they can cross the Jordan River and take their first city. And the captain of the host of the Lord spoke to Jeremiah and gave him the unusual battle plans. But so here's some things about Joshua. He met the Lord. Secondly, he was willing to do all that the Lord had asked him to do. And third, the Lord gave this unusual battle plan. And the Israelites would take this fortified walled city, not with catapults, not with flaming arrows, not by scaling the walls, but just by music and shouting. And the battle was won by the Lord. Well, here's the plan. The armed men and the priests that would blow ram's horns, these were like their trumpets, an unusual, sweet sound. The Ark of the Covenant, which held the Ten Commandments, it represented the presence of God. The rear guard, and they were to march around the city of Jericho once each day for 6 days. And then, if you're inside Jericho, you're seeing this group march around, wondering what in the world are they doing? It might generate a little bit of fear. But as the days progressed, it generated a lot of encouragement, a lot of faith to the Israelites. Then on the seventh day, the Israelites were to march in the same progression around the city of Jericho 7 times. And then Joshua gave the signal, and the people would shout loudly, and the walls would fall down. I'm wanting to know, what did they shout? I don't know. Anyway, and I'm wondering about these walls. How big were they? Was this kind of a big thing? Probably 6 feet in depth of the wall, probably anywhere up to maybe 17 feet high. So yeah, it was a pretty big wall. And I always wonder why 7. I think it's supposed to be a special number to the Jewish nation. Why not 8? Why not 10? Why not 12? Well, it was 7. And so when the walls of the city fell flat, The armed men were to enter, destroy the city and all that was in it, except for one person, and that was Rahab the harlot. Why was she so special? Well, earlier, a few days earlier, Joshua sent some spies into the city, and they were noticed by people in authority in Jericho, like the king of Jericho. But these spies ended up in the home of Rahab, and Rahab knew that they were Israelites, knew the God of the Israelites, knew the power of the God of Israelites. She had heard about the parting of the Red Sea for the Israelites to cross on dry land. So she had a reverence. She had a reverence for the God of the Israelites. And so she hid these spies. And when the authorities of the city came by, she said, "Oh no, they're not here. They just left. If you hurry, you can catch them." And so they leave and wander around and are never able to catch them because Rahab has hid them. When it was safe for them to return to Joshua, Rahab asked for a favor. She said, to reward me, so to speak. She didn't use those words probably, but would you reward me by giving me safety when you enter and capture the city? She knew that God was going to capture the city, and that if God wanted it done, it would get done. And so she asked that she and her household would be saved when God allowed the Israelites to take the city. And so they agreed. And they said, put a red scarlet rope in your window, and that will let us know that you are the saved one. And so that was honored. When the Israelites took the city and burned the city, Rahab was spared, and those that were within her home. Once they take the city, Joshua put the city under a ban. Now this meant that the city belonged to the Lord, and the treasures of the city, like silver and gold and articles of bronze and iron, those would be saved for the tabernacle, and that any person who coveted or stole any of these items would be accursed, and it would cause the nation trouble. And so we'll find out what in the next video what happens with that situation. Then Joshua made the Israelites take an oath that any man that would rebuild the walls and the gates of Jericho would be accursed, and they would lose their firstborn and their youngest son. Come to find out, this was fulfilled about 350 years later when someone did exactly as Joshua forbade. I didn't say that right. Well, what can we gather from this story? Well, first of all, God is involved in history, especially the history of Israel. God was not just somebody who started things in motion, as some want to believe. God is directly involved in the history of Israel, and also in the history of the church. God's name is to be honored. Third, what God promised was fulfilled. Fourth, God's miracle of bringing down the walls. It happened, and it increased Israel's faith in God. Fifth, there were some serious consequences for those who worshipped pagan gods. They were destroyed. And then the fear of that spread throughout the rest of the countryside, so that they began to fear the Israelites and fear their God for what he had done. But also, there is provision for those who recognize God, who honor God, and respect God, and know who he is. God can do the impossible. It does require trust, though, in him, and to follow his directions, even if they don't make sense. You know, those battle plans were quite unusual. Well, I wanted to talk about, God's battle plan is not always, most likely, is not always the type that we would follow, but it is God's plan, and God still performs miracles. His hand is upon those who worship him, and his hand is removed from those who worship pagan gods. And I ask this question, what walls do you need God to bring down? Perhaps it's some sin in your life. Perhaps it's self-worship. Perhaps it's materialism. Whatever it is, those walls or those barriers need to come down so that you can worship a holy God. Secondly, there might be some walls that you need to build. Walls of boundaries. Perhaps there's a boundary that needs to be made between like a physical, emotional, or spiritual boundary, because Christians are attacked. They are attacked by the evil one, and they sometimes need God's walls of protection upon them. Share this message with someone who does not know this story. And if they don't even know the Lord, share your faith with them. Share your faith that you believe that Jesus came as the Messiah, that he lived a sinless life, that he died on a cross for our sins. He was our substitute for our sins, and that he ascended into heaven, and that he's coming again. Share those with perhaps your non-believing friends or those who are brand new Christians. Send them this way. So I ask that you subscribe and that you ring the bell and give the thumbs up and all that stuff from YouTube. But remember, Paul said in Romans 10:9 that if you confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. And so I pray that that is your belief today. I hope that you will go to a Bible-believing church where you can hear about Jesus, who he was, who he is, and who he will be coming at the second coming. And that you can join a small group Bible study where you can grow in your faith and be with other believers. Thanks for watching.